I love Outer Wilds. This is a game I desperately do not want to spoil for people. I almost don't like putting gameplay in the background because these are moments you could have in your hands. Nonetheless, it would probably be pretty boring without it, so I will keep it. If you have not played Outer Wilds, please play it. This is one of those games, and I know not every game is made for everyone, but this is one of those games where everyone, it seems like everyone unanimously agrees that this is a great game, and I completely agree. I am not exaggerating when I say this is one of my favorite games of all time. This is one of the most video gamey games I have ever played, and I'll explain that later, hopefully. And it's also one of the most artistic games I have ever played. While I'm sure there are very similar games out there, this was a completely unique experience for me personally, a complete breath of fresh air from what I usually play. This game has made my jaw drop. It made me quiver in fear, made me race in determination. It even made me cry. But most importantly, it made me absolutely curious. Please play this game. It is best to start completely blind, and I seriously encourage you to experience it first before you watch this entire video, because the more I say, the more you can't experience blind by yourself. And I know it sort of seems like you just gotta trust me on my word, but this is a good game, and it's only $25. I'm pretty sure it's only $25 everywhere, which is wild. This game has a 10 out of 10 on Steam, good scores across the board. It has even been nominated for many awards and earned 6 of them. I would consider this a classic. I even saw another YouTuber's video saying this is a timeless classic, and I'd have to agree with him. Outer Wilds is an experience that could only be done in a video game, and it utilizes the medium perfectly. These are the types of games that truly show that video games are an art form. I have left a few links in the description to videos that do a great job of covering the beginning of this game, as well as a documentary NoClip did that I will be pulling from for this video. My favorite thing is hearing what people do on their very first space excursions, because it's always something cool. It always has this thing that hooks them at some point and makes them realize just what type of game this is. I'd rather not just say what other videos have said perfectly. I want to cover what I feel are the most important aspects of this game. Outer Wilds is the complete opposite of generic. There is no combat, no leveling up or upgrades, no guns or weapons, no territory to conquer, no crafting, no building. All you have is a spacesuit, a spaceship, a signal scope, a scout, a Nomai translator, and the biggest tool I will talk about later. The game doesn't tell you where to go or what to do. You choose that yourself from the very beginning. There's literally only one mandatory cutscene, and everything you need to know about how the game works is perfectly tutorialized in the first hour, and you wouldn't even realize it. Now, to someone who hasn't played, this sounds like it's just a walking simulator, but it absolutely isn't. Obstacles and danger come in many forms, and you will die until you learn how to get around them. The main plot of the game is discovery and investigation, mainly done through the translator you have. One of the most amazing aspects of Outer Wilds to me is the fact that none of this is fake. If you don't get what I mean, every single one of these planets has gravity, and all of them are being pulled on by the sun and each other. These white lines are not set paths. That's quite literally the revolution around the sun. When you land on a planet, there is no trickery. You are moving on that object that is revolving and also moving around the sun, which is absolutely insane, and they had to make this from scratch. And by the way, the islands on Giant's Deep aren't attached to anything. They are freely floating around the ocean. So you are moving on a moving island on a moving planet revolving around the sun. Games are often made where the ground and assets are completely static, and movable objects are simulating gravity on a very small scale.
The joke we always make about Outer Wilds is it's the game you're not supposed to make, because the way you do nice lighting in games is by static objects that don't move. Everything in Outer Wilds is always moving. The way you make games is on a grid in Maya. Everything in Outer Wilds is on a sphere. Any thing you expect out of game development, we just kind of had to throw away and figure it out.
Each planet is a rigid body, like a physically simulated object moving through space affected by forces. And so is everything else, everything in the game is. You know, if we were a different game, we could get away with saying you know what, we'll just fudge it, we'll just fake it when you're on this planet and it'll look right. But because Outer Wilds is a game about simulation and about truth and systems, that was top of my list for things I didn't want to do, was fake anything.
This is a super obvious point about the game, but I think it's very important because the level design and environmental design is absolutely insane in this game. I am stunned at how these developers were able to build such intricate and functional structures, especially when most of the planets aren't super massive to the point where on the surface it seems flat. Like, it's always going to seem rounded. Most things have to be somewhat rounded in their structures, and I can't even think of how they actually did that.
Straight up right now, but you just because flying around still works the same.
Right.
You just learn to sort of work in this weird way. Working on the underside of a planet, I have to do this sort of kick flip here, and now right and left is reversed.
Oh no.
But
I love how unique this game is, especially in the genre of sci-fi. Your species isn't super technologically advanced. The spaceships are very much thrown together and use some tech taken from the Nomai. The designers took inspiration from national forests and parks. There's a huge emphasis on peace and nature. I do enjoy the usual sci-fi stuff, you know, usually it's like metallic ships, you know, this very complicated technology and all that stuff, or it's like gritty realism, and I love that stuff, but I'm very appreciative that Outer Wilds has its own unique style. Each planet is so distinct with its own grand gimmick, from the geysers of Timber Hearth, the sand slowly filling within Ember Twin, the violent weather on Giant's Deep, the black hole sucking in chunks of Brittle Hollow when struck out of place by its meteor-pelting lava moon, or the creepiness of this nightmare. Each planet is all handcrafted and detail is everywhere it needs to be. I am a sucker for having distinct sections/zones in longer games so that the environment doesn't become monotonous or tiring. Batman Arkham Asylum is one of my favorite examples of this, having all these distinct aesthetics throughout that keeps the experience fresh and further characterizes the asylum itself. There are a ton of game design lessons to be learned from this game. In the way that the narrative works in this game, where you can sort of uncover mysteries in your own unique order, it very clearly shows you the iterative process of level design and environmental design, more clearly than other games would. This game is based on knowledge, so the level design reflects the differing degree of knowledge that the player has at a time. The very obvious paths will be the ones that don't require as much knowledge. These are more so starting points for the journeys on each planet and are very much made clear with like a sonar beacon or something like that. Pretty much every path in the game is something you can just stumble upon, but many of them are hidden and harder to get to, but much easier to find if you have learned about them from another location, or have learned how to dodge the danger that is within them. Obviously, I am simplifying the game design a lot, but just playing the game will teach you a lot about level design and environmental design very naturally. Something I really thought about halfway through the game was that the environment wasn't just a backdrop, but a pure extension of the narrative and point itself. These planets aren't just backdrops to deploy gameplay. The planet itself is the gameplay. The space in between them is the gameplay. Many times you can't just push autopilot because your path may lead you into the sun or into another planet and your ship will get seriously messed up or you'll just straight up die. Also, another obstacle is just gravity itself. If you want to lift off a planet or get around the sun, you start to naturally account for gravity, applying opposite forces to get where you need to. I think everyone should think of environmental design in this way. It's not just a backdrop, it's an aspect of the game that works in synthesis with other aspects such as gameplay to paint a big picture. Environmental design is just another piece in the puzzle. It's difficult to explain, but this is just one of those games where all of it comes together to make a perfect whole. Now, this next part of the video is going to go into even more detail about the point of the game, and I'm being dead serious. Please play the game. I don't want to spoil it for you. I would love to wipe my memory and play this again, so I think you're in a lucky position if you've never played this game. I've intentionally left big things out already so that you can experience those big things by yourself, so please, I'm telling you, experience it yourself. The most important tool you have in Outer Wilds is curiosity. It's crazy to look back on the game and realize that the game gave me really no reason to go anywhere at first, yet I found myself racing through the spaceship and lifting off as fast as I could because I constructed my own countless goals. The main goal for the player at any given time is completely derived from themselves, to feed their curiosity to gain knowledge. There are quite a few mystery games out there based entirely around uncovering knowledge, but this is the first game I have played like that, and it seems like the most accessible game like that. Other games give the player a motivation, usually narrative driven, or the motivation to play is simply for the gameplay loop itself. Outer Wilds seems somewhat different from this. My motivation was to simply learn. It presented a grand mystery that was so complex and interesting that I just needed to figure it out. Many of the solutions will be something I've been thinking about for a long time in the game. Then suddenly I use the knowledge the game has given me and the solution is super obvious in like a great way, or maybe a better word is like intuitive. It makes so much sense and everything you needed was there from the start. You can literally beat this game on your first launch if you wanted to, but that doesn't happen because Outer Wilds shows you just how powerful knowledge is. Nothing is temporarily locked off. Nothing is keeping you from finding the different pieces to the puzzle. The only thing keeping you from uncovering the mystery is ignorance itself. There is a difference between tone and mood. Outer Wilds has both. Tone refers to an emotion that the creators have set within the work very clearly, while mood is the emotion of the person experiencing the work / the player's emotion. In a video game like Outer Wilds, these can be blurry because obviously many aspects of the game are intentional even if not clearly shown to be. The biggest and most beautiful example of tone in Outer Wilds has to be the music, composed by Andrew Prolo. Music is definitely interpretable, but it's very intentional in this game. If you enter a very important area with very important plot points, you're gonna get a very serious grand track. If you are peacefully going through space, you'll get an exploration track. If you are exploring a Nomai ruin full of skeletons, you might get a sad track. The music in this game is incredible and very directly ties to the narrative. You'd know what I mean if you beat the game. What I really appreciate about this game is that it often doesn't have music playing and embraces mood just as much as tone, maybe even more. This game made me scared at so many different points. Not even just talking about Dark Bramble, you know, the scariest place in the game. I would say that is clearly tone because it's very intentionally and obviously trying to make you scared. What I am talking about is something that is probably intentional, but it's not really clearly stated. It's something really extended by the great sound design as well. The only villain in this game is the universe itself. There's no being or beings trying to hurt or kill you, only nature itself. The grand scale of some of these planets, the unexpected nature of this game made me scared. Something like a massive hurricane getting closer and closer to your island and the wind getting louder and louder, very narrowly making a jump on Brittle Hollow as the surface you are on is about to collapse into a black hole, the loud crashes of meteors suddenly impacting behind you, looking down into the ocean of Giants Deep alone as anything could pop up from under that darkness. I mean, you look at the giant electrified jellyfish, how are you not scared? Simply being alone in the vacuum of space, hearing absolutely nothing but your own breathing. Almost getting crushed under rock due to the rising sand, being haunted by objects that move when you aren't looking at them. This somehow the shape and the color, the texture and the mysteriousness of these phantom rocks just make them so intimidating and scary. I remember being so scared of falling into that black hole. Nothing good could come from falling into an abyss of darkness, especially what I knew from actual scientific studies that you'd basically be torn apart into a million atoms. Then eventually I did fall in, and this happened. These senses of fear are intentional, but I say they are examples of mood because what makes these obstacles and dangers so scary is the unknown, the lack of knowledge. And the more knowledge you gain, you know, the main point of this game, the more understanding of the universe you have, and the more the universe becomes a little bit less scary. Now I can dive straight into that black hole and it's not really scary anymore. It's like a fast travel point. Okay, like if you haven't played the game and you're still here, I'm about to spoil the shit out of the game. I've talked about experiences I've had with the game, but I'm literally about to spoil the entire plot and ending of this game. Like actually, please play the game, I beg you. I'm serious, I'm gonna spoil it immediately. This is a very existential game about what it means to be alive, what it means to be conscious. I have yet to mention the basic mechanic of the game. You are in a time loop that lasts 22 minutes every time. The only thing you can change in existence permanently is the extent of your knowledge, cataloged on the spaceship computer. In your first loop or so, you'll realize that the star in the middle of the Outer Wilds system goes supernova, and there's no way to stop it. A curious goal lingering in my mind when I was playing is, maybe I can stop this, I can save the solar system. Luckily I'm in a loop so that I can. Over time you realize this isn't really the case. The Nomai wanted to find the Eye of the Universe a long time ago. A branch of the Nomai arrived in the Outer Wilds system and realized the Eye signal was somewhere around this system, but they couldn't find exactly where. So they devised a plan. They gained the knowledge that an object will come through a white hole a bit sooner than when it enters the correlated black hole, and this effect can be amplified with enough power. They then set up a probe launcher in orbit of Giant's Deep that would launch a probe in a random direction out of the system in search of the Eye. They also created a sphere on Ash Twin that would be indestructible, even to a supernova, that would house these masks that would link to systems or conscious beings. They would use the time dilation caused by a black hole to send information back in time by 22 minutes, each time telling the probe launcher to launch in a random direction. This would be done over and over until the probe found the Eye of the Universe exactly. If anything went wrong, the info sent back in time could warn the Nomai of it, and they could just simply shut down the process. The only way to make a time dilation 22 minutes long, though, is with a very large power source. A supernova. Sun Station was created to intentionally cause the sun to go supernova in this time dilation, but you will learn that it never worked. Shortly after, the Nomai went extinct due to an outbreak of ghost matter, and their technology lay dormant until the sun naturally went supernova. In fact, time has been looping for a very long time. It's not until the player is spotted by a statue that you are actually aware of it. There is no way to stop the sun from going supernova. There is no way to stop the entire universe from having a heat death either. It is the end of everything. But if you are able to get the coordinates to the Eye and warp there, you can be the first conscious being to look into it, at least the first being in this version of the universe. The ending of this game is very abstract, slowly letting you know that there's no way to stop something as natural as the end of everything. But it is important that before the end, you are able to live a life of curiosity with fellow Earthians. The ending reminded me a lot of 2001: A Space Odyssey, but I connected to this game more because it felt like my universe, not just some fictional characters, due to the fact that I was literally controlling myself. These beautiful planets and these extremely chill Earthians would be lost forever. But because I was able to reach the Eye of the Universe, and that was the moment that really got me. Yes, the old universe was gone, but nothing lasts forever. Something new will eventually come. Not only did I cry at that burst of light, but I cried during the credits because it's amazing. It's a miracle that people were able to make a work of art so beautiful, something so special as this game. I would learn quickly after that Outer Wilds started out as Alex Beecham's master's thesis in college. A free demo was released for it, and it had an amazing reception, and it even won awards. Outer Wilds was a crowd-funded project on Fig and started full development. It was picked up by a then recently founded studio called Mobius Digital and hired all of the previous team members. Then Annapurna Interactive became their publisher, providing, necessary funds. I cried during the credits because I can look at Outer Wilds and say individuals made this. Individuals who truly cared about their work, their art. And because it is my dream that one day I will show up in the credits of a game that is as good as Outer Wilds. Thank you, Mobius Games. Thank you to the entire team. Your work is truly inspiring, and I really mean that. I really mean that it was truly inspiring because I'm going to be going to school soon for game design. I plan to major in game design, and it's very easy to be doubtful of a path, a decision so impactful, so demanding of the future, and this is what I'll be doing, and this is what I've chosen. It's a big decision. And seeing a game like this just makes it so clear. I want to make video games. So, thank you.